I never thought I'd be setting up my boss on dates while secretly falling for her myself. But the real shock came when she looked at my carefully curated list of eligible bachelors, tore it up, and asked me the question that would change everything: why would I want them when I have you? James Bennet stared at his boss, Catherine Wells, the words hanging in the air between them. His heart hammered against his ribs as the implications of her question sank in. But before he could respond, his phone buzzed with an emergency call from his daughter's school. The moment shattered, he rushed out, leaving Catherine's question unanswered and their future uncertain. 6 months earlier, James had been drowning. A single father to 8-year-old Lily after his wife's death 3 years ago, he'd finally landed a job as executive assistant to Catherine Wells, the formidable CEO of Horizon Publishing. Catherine was brilliant, driven, and intimidating, known throughout the industry for her sharp mind and even sharper tongue. On his first day, she'd barely looked up from her computer when he entered her office. Coffee, black. Schedule cleared for the Pearson meeting at 2. And I need the quarterly reports reorganized by end of day, she'd said without preamble. James had stood straighter. Ms. Wells, I've taken the liberty of preparing the Pearson presentation with updated figures from this morning's reports. I've also reorganized your schedule to give you 30 minutes of preparation time before the meeting, and the quarterly reports are already on your desk, categorized by department performance. That had earned him his first glimpse of the real Catherine. She'd looked up, surprise flickering across her face before a small smile appeared. Well, perhaps you'll last longer than the last 3. James quickly became indispensable. He anticipated her needs, streamlined her chaotic schedule, and somehow managed to balance his work with being there for Lily. Catherine was demanding but fair, and over time, their professional relationship developed an easy rhythm. The turning point came 3 months in, when Lily had fallen ill at school. James had been frantically trying to find someone to pick her up while finishing Catherine's crucial presentation when his boss walked in. "You look like you're about to have a stroke, Bennet. What's wrong?" When he explained, Catherine had simply taken the presentation from his hands. "Go get your daughter. Family comes first." "But the Westfield meeting. I managed presentations before you arrived. I think I can handle one more." She'd shoot him out, but not before he caught a softness in her eyes he'd never seen before. That night, as James sat beside Lily's bed, his phone had pinged with a text from Catherine. "How is she?" It was the first personal message she'd ever sent him, and something shifted between them after that. Catherine began asking about Lily regularly. She adjusted James's schedule when school events came up. And sometimes, when they worked late, their conversations drifted from business to more personal matters: her childhood in a small town, his life before his wife's illness, books they both loved. James found himself noticing things about Catherine he shouldn't: the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when concentrating, her unexpected belly laugh at his dry jokes, how her professional armor slipped when it was just the two of them. But he kept these observations locked away. She was his boss, and he needed this job. Then came the company gala. Catherine had been cornered by Martin Drake, a board member known for his persistent attempts to date her. James had intervened with a fabricated urgent matter, rescuing her from the uncomfortable situation. Later, as they stood on the balcony away from the crowd, Catherine had sighed. "Thank you for the save. Martin is the 3rd board member to ask me out this month." "Perhaps you should consider it," James had suggested carefully. "Not Martin, obviously, but dating. You work too much." Catherine had given him a strange look. "Says the man who works the same hours I do. Different circumstances. I have Lily. And I have a company to run." She'd turned to face the night sky. "Besides, dating is exhausting. The small talk, the disappointment, the wasted evenings I could spend working or reading or doing literally anything else. Maybe you're dating the wrong men." The words had slipped out before he could stop them. Catherine had turned to him with raised eyebrows, and he'd hurried to explain. "I just mean, you're selective about everything else in your life. Why not be selective about this too? The right person wouldn't feel like a waste of time." A thoughtful expression had crossed her face. "And how exactly would I find this mythical right person while working 80-hour weeks?" That's when James had made the fateful suggestion that would change everything. "I could help. I know you well enough to screen candidates who might actually interest you." Catherine had laughed, thinking he was joking. But the next day, James had placed a short list on her desk, 3 men he genuinely thought might intrigue her. Successful, intelligent, and not intimidated by powerful women. To his surprise, Catherine had agreed to a date with the first man, a literature professor who shared her love of obscure Russian novels. But the date had been a disaster. The second man, an architect with a passion for urban renewal projects, had fared no better. After each failed date, Catherine would arrive at work the next morning with a cutting review, and James found himself feeling an inappropriate sense of satisfaction. He told himself he was just concerned for her happiness, but deep down, he knew it was more complicated. Meanwhile, Catherine was becoming a fixture in James and Lily's life. She'd started dropping by their apartment with work emergencies that somehow evolved into dinner and board games with Lily. His daughter adored Catherine, who treated her with a respect most adults didn't show children. "Your boss is pretty," Lily had commented one night after Catherine left. "And she laughs at all your jokes, even the really bad ones." "That's because she's polite," James had replied, ignoring the warmth spreading through his chest. "No, Dad. That's because she likes you. Even I know that." Out of the mouths of babes. The third date James arranged was with a successful publisher who seemed perfect for Catherine on paper. The night of the date, James found himself checking his phone constantly while helping Lily with her science project. When it remained silent, he told himself Catherine must be having a good time. But at 9:30, his doorbell rang. He opened it to find Catherine standing there, still in her date clothes but with an unreadable expression. "What happened? Are you okay?" he'd asked, ushering her inside. "The date was fine," she'd said, pacing his living room. "He was intelligent, successful, attractive, shared many of my interests." James had felt a sinking feeling. "That's good?" "No, it's not good, James." She'd stopped pacing to face him. "Because the entire time, all I could think was that I'd rather be here, with you and Lily, eating takeout and arguing about whether Pluto should still be a planet." The confession had hung between them, heavy with implication. Before James could respond, Lily had bounded into the room, excited to see Catherine and completely oblivious to the tension. The next day at work had been awkward. They'd both pretended nothing had happened, focusing rigidly on professional matters. But James couldn't stop thinking about Catherine's words, turning them over in his mind, wondering if they meant what he hoped they meant. A week later, Catherine had called him into her office and asked for a new list of potential dates. James had spent hours on it, researching men who were even more perfect for her, all while his heart twisted painfully in his chest. When he'd presented the list, Catherine had studied it silently. Then, with deliberate movements, she'd torn it in half. "Why would I want them when I have you?" And that's when his phone had rung with the school's emergency number. Now, 3 hours later, James sat in the hospital waiting room, his head in his hands. Lily had broken her arm falling from the monkey bars, but was otherwise fine, currently being fitted for a cast and enjoying the attention from the nurses. "Mr. Bennett?" He looked up to see Catherine standing there, concern etched on her face. "Catherine? How did you? Your emergency contact at the school called the office when they couldn't reach you." She sat beside him. "Is Lily okay?" "Broken arm. She's actually thrilled about getting a cast for everyone to sign." He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry about running out earlier." "Don't be ridiculous. Lily comes first." She hesitated. About what I said. James's heart rate picked up again. Did you mean it? Catherine looked more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. I've spent my life building walls to protect myself, focusing on my career because it was safer than risking my heart. Then you came along with your competence and your terrible jokes and your absolute devotion to your daughter, and suddenly all those walls seemed pointless. Catherine. Let me finish. I know this is complicated. I'm your boss. There are HR considerations. And most importantly, there's Lily. I would never want to disrupt her life or hurt her if things didn't work out between us. James reached for her hand. Lily adores you. And as for the rest, we can figure it out. If you want to. I do want to, she said softly. I've never been more certain of anything. The door opened, and Lily appeared, sporting a bright purple cast and a wide grin. She spotted Catherine and her smile grew even bigger. You came. Look at my cast. The doctor said I was super brave. Catherine knelt down to Lily's level. Of course you were brave. You're the bravest person I know. Lily looked between the adults, her young face suddenly serious. Did you tell my dad you like him yet? Because he likes you too. He gets all smiley when you text him. James felt his face heat up, but Catherine laughed, that full, unguarded laugh he loved. Yes, I told him. What do you think about that? Lily considered this with the gravity of an 8-year-old making an important decision. I think it's good. You make Dad happy. And you don't treat me like a baby. High praise indeed, Catherine said, her eyes meeting James's over Lily's head. In that moment, looking at the two of them together, James felt something he hadn't experienced since before his wife's illness, hope. Not just for survival, but for happiness. For a future filled with more than just getting through each day. 3 months into their relationship, the inevitable happened. James was organizing Catherine's schedule when he noticed a board meeting he hadn't been informed about. Curious, he checked the agenda and felt his blood run cold. The first item listed was discussion of CEO's personal relationship with executive assistant. He'd known this was coming. They'd been discreet at work, maintaining strict professionalism, but rumors had started nonetheless. Catherine had brushed them off, but James had worried about the potential fallout. For her career, for his job, for their fragile new happiness. That evening, he waited until Lily was asleep before bringing it up. Catherine was curled on the couch, reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed quarterly projections. There's a board meeting tomorrow, he said carefully. About us. Catherine looked up, her expression unreadable. Yes, I know. You know? He sat beside her, confusion and hurt mingling in his chest. Why didn't you tell me? She set her papers aside. Because I knew you'd worry, and there's nothing to worry about. Nothing to, Catherine, they could force you out. Everything you've built. James. She took his hands, her touch grounding him. I've already spoken with the board chair. Yes, some members have concerns about a potential conflict of interest. But I've been preparing for this. What does that mean? Catherine took a deep breath. It means I've been working with HR on a restructuring plan. You'd report to the COO instead of directly to me. There would be clear boundaries about performance reviews and compensation decisions. James felt a flicker of relief, but it was quickly overshadowed by a new concern. And if that's not enough for them? Catherine's eyes hardened with the determination he'd first admired in her. Then they can find themselves a new CEO. I've made it clear that this is non-negotiable. You'd risk your position? For this? For me? His voice cracked on the last word. For us, she corrected gently. James, before you and Lily came into my life, Horizon was everything to me. I measured my worth by my success, by the deals I closed and the competitors I outmaneuvered. I thought that was enough. She moved closer, her voice softening. But now I understand what I was missing. Yes, I love my work. I'm good at it, and I'm not giving it up. But if forced to choose between the company and the family we're building, it's not even a question. James felt tears prick his eyes. After his wife died, he'd been so focused on survival, on being everything Lily needed, that he'd forgotten what it felt like to be chosen, to be someone's priority. I don't want you to have to make that choice, he said. With luck, I won't have to. She smiled, the confident smile that had intimidated him that first day. I built this company from a struggling regional publisher to an international media group. Most of the board knows they need me more than I need them. The next day was the longest of James's life. He dropped Lily at school, fielded calls, and tried not to check the time every 5 minutes as the board meeting stretched from 1 hour to 2, then 3. When Catherine finally emerged from the conference room, her face gave nothing away. She walked straight to her office, and James followed, heart in his throat. As soon as the door closed behind them, she turned to him with a triumphant smile. It's done. The restructuring plan was approved. Relief flooded through him. So we can be together openly, yes. She stepped closer. There are conditions. Professional boundaries. A review in 6 months. But essentially, we won. James pulled her into his arms, not caring about the glass walls or curious eyes. I was so worried. I know. But I meant what I said last night. She pulled back to look at him. There's something else. During the meeting, Martin Drake suggested that my judgment was compromised, that I was making emotional decisions. James tensed. And I told him he was right. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. I said that for the first time in my life, I was making decisions that balanced emotional fulfillment with professional success, and that it had made me a better leader, not a weaker one. She laughed at his expression. You should have seen his face. But the interesting thing is, several board members agreed with me. Apparently, I've been more approachable and better at delegation since we've been together. So your terrible taste in men has actually been good for business? James teased, relief making him giddy. My excellent taste in one particular man, she corrected, kissing him quickly before stepping back to a professional distance. Now, we have work to do. And Lily's school play is at 4, so we need to be efficient. We? James asked. Of course. I promised her I'd be there. Catherine straightened her jacket, once again the formidable CEO. But now James could see the softness beneath the armor, the woman who had chosen him and his daughter over the safety of her solitary success. 3 months later, Catherine moved into their apartment. The transition wasn't without challenges. Balancing their work relationship with their personal one required careful navigation, and there were moments when Catherine's inexperience with children created tension. But they faced each obstacle together, with honesty and patience. One evening, as they sat on the balcony after Lily had gone to bed, Catherine turned to James with a thoughtful expression. Do you ever think about how differently things might have turned out if you hadn't offered to find me dates? James smiled. I try not to. I prefer to focus on how things did turn out. Still, she mused, it's strange to think that your attempt to pair me with someone else led us here. Maybe not so strange, James said, taking her hand. Maybe I was always looking for someone like me for you, because deep down, I wanted to be the one you chose. Catherine leaned against him. You know, for a man who makes terrible jokes, you occasionally say exactly the right thing. As the city lights twinkled below them, James reflected on the winding path that had brought them together. From grieving widower to single dad to executive assistant to partner, none of it had been planned, but all of it had led him exactly where he needed to be. Sometimes the family you build is even stronger than the one you're born into. Sometimes the love that comes after loss is all the more precious for the journey it took to find it. And sometimes, the person you're looking for has been right in front of you all along, you just needed the courage to see them. If you enjoyed this story of unexpected love and second chances, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content that reminds us all that hope can be found in the most surprising places. We'd love to know.